Next on this special edition of Currents News, young people pack the pews of St. Patrick's Cathedral. They're using prayer to cope with New York's new abortion law. President Trump takes on the killing of the unborn in a strong message at the State of the Union that targets the New York measure. A furor erupts over the renaming of a Brooklyn street. Catholics in the local parish are up in arms. Plus, it's Black History Month. I cover a special mass where Catholics celebrate with a sign of faith. The news starts right now. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. Welcome to this special edition of Currents News. Tonight, we're looking back at some of our most memorable stories recently reported by our Currents News team. Catholics are praying for God's mercy at a special mass in St. Patrick's Cathedral. The vigil coming after New York State cleared the way for abortions virtually without any restrictions. Currents News' Emily Druby has that story.
Young people came together to pray for an end to abortion.
What happened in Albany on January 22nd, 2019, what happened at the Supreme Court on January 22nd, 1973, subverts the foundations of common life and culture.
A mass held at St. Patrick's Cathedral for young adults searching for a way to cope with New York's recently passed Reproductive Health Act.
I'm struggling a little bit with how I'm going to deal with it. You can pray and you can be angry and you can post on social media, but when it comes down to it, it's like Father said in his homily, we all have to figure out what we're going to do ourselves.
The bill does several things, but one of the most troubling to Catholics, it legalizes abortions up to birth in some cases. It has stirred up the late-term abortion debate across the country, even being mentioned during the State of the Union.
Lawmakers in New York cheered with delight upon the passage of legislation that would allow a baby to be ripped from the mother's womb moments from birth.
A recent Marist poll sponsored by the Knights of Columbus says 75% of Americans think abortion should be limited to the first 3 months of pregnancy.
If New York is going to become not the abortion capital of the U.S., but the pro-life capital of the U.S., it's going to be by Catholics and others working together to bring a culture of life to a place in which, unfortunately and tragically, the culture of death is celebrated.
One of my friends referred to it as grieving, and I realized that was what I was actually doing. It really was heart-wrenching to me.
Young people who attended the Mass say during this trying time, being among other like-minded people is a comfort. In Manhattan, Emily Druby, Currents News.
President Trump took on the New York abortion law at this highly anticipated State of the Union speech. It was the first time in 3 addresses to joint sessions of Congress that he ever mentioned abortion. Trump, who once described himself as very pro-choice, threw away his past with fierce and explicitly religious language, all in favor of the right to life. Currents News' Michelle Powers reports.
All children, born and unborn, are made in the holy image of God.
In his State of the Union address, President Trump received a standing ovation from Republicans for condemning recent efforts to expand state abortion laws. The other side of Congress remained in their seats, baffling Catholics in the Diocese of Brooklyn.
It's just awful. You're murdering babies.
We had such a great country, and now it's, I don't know. I'm getting very discouraged from it.
The president went on to criticize New York's recently passed Reproductive Health Act that hits close to home for these churchgoers.
Lawmakers in New York cheered with delight upon the passage of legislation that would allow a baby to be ripped from the mother's womb moments from birth.
Congratulations to both sides.
Fiercely opposed by both Cardinal Timothy Dolan and Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio, the act declares abortion on demand at any moment in a pregnancy up to birth a fundamental right.
These are living, feeling, beautiful babies who will never get the chance to share their love and their dreams with the world.
Catholics say they are pleased the president is echoing their concerns in the State of the Union.
I'm going to watch it again. It was magnificent.
But many worry it may be too late. Another recent bill in Virginia would have allowed a woman to request an abortion when she's about to give birth.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable.
The governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, recently defended this bill, now tabled, saying if the family desired, a discussion with physicians could take place deciding the newborn's fate.
There could be no greater contrast to the beautiful image of a mother holding her infant child than the chilling displays our nation saw in recent days.
Following the high-profile debates in New York and Virginia, states including Rhode Island, Vermont, and New Mexico will all consider abortion expansion proposals in the coming months.
I am asking Congress to pass legislation to prohibit the late-term abortion of children who can feel pain in the mother's womb.
But some politicians are critical of the president's pro-life stance. Governor Andrew Cuomo is accusing him of shamelessly courting the religious right to win votes.
Anyone who would murder the unborn, they will belong in hell, because I believe it's premeditated murder.
An editorial in today's New York Times, Cuomo writes, "As a Roman Catholic, I am intimately familiar with the strongly held views of the church. Still, I do not believe that religious values should drive political positions." Michelle Powers, Currents News.
New York's top cop, Police Commissioner James O'Neill, was the headline speaker at a major Catholic event, and he talked about faith in the city. Currents News' Tim Harfman reports on the Cathedral Club dinner.
NYPD Commissioner James O'Neill addressing hundreds at Brooklyn's Cathedral Club dinner about the important role of faith in the city.
If we're going to continue to make New York City a safe place for all 8.6 million residents, we all have to work together. And I think the church plays a big part in that. We have to recognize each other's humanity, and I think that's how we make the city even safer.
The Cathedral Club is the top lay Catholic organization in Brooklyn, hard at work for over a century. At its annual dinner, Bishop DiMarzio points to its contributions in strengthening Catholic unity.
We see people coming together, working together for a common cause, and at the same time respecting one another. This is what we need in our society.
And for the future of society, the Cathedral Club earmarks the proceeds from its dinner to a scholarship fund for Catholic high school students.
The Catholic faith is under attack, from every direction these days. And I think that, it's important, and it's our mission to keep the Catholic high school programs going.
The Cathedral Club's mission is strongly supported by the Tablet and Nuestra Voz editor Jorge Dominguez and our anchor Liz Faublas, who emphasizes the need to support students.
They're the ones that are going to carry on the traditions. They're the ones that they're going to carry on the faith. So if we can't all come together for that, then we're truly lost.
You see here people from so many different backgrounds, different cultures, everybody together. This is when you think that you remember that Catholic means universal.
Part of that universal church, the event's honoree, Dominic Kama, president and COO of Investors Bank. Mr. Kama remembered how a Catholic education made a difference for him.
It served as a foundation for me in my career, in my family, and really has served as the backbone of everything that has been good in my life.
New York's top cop, Commissioner O'Neill, told a similar story.
The message that I received at home from my mom and my dad was that this life is not just about you, it's about helping other people. It was reinforced by that Catholic education.
In Midtown Manhattan, Tim Harfman, Currents News.
The Cathedral Club also honored a man who has devoted his life to Brooklyn, both in the faith and at the ballot box. Michael Long, recognized for his 3 decades of service to New York State's Conservative Party. A former U.S. Marine turned business owner, Long's public career also included representing Brooklyn on New York City Council. Long is now retiring as the Conservative Party's chairman, and he shares his hopes for the group as he steps down.
My hope is that the Conservative Party will continue to be the common sense voice, certainly here in New York. If ever there was a time that the conservative voice is needed in New York State, it's now.
Mr. Long looks forward to spending more time with his family, wife of 54 years, Eileen, their 9 children, 23 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. He'll remain as chairman of the board at Holy Angels Catholic Academy in Bay Ridge. There's a lot more news headed your way on this special edition of Currents News. Should being a Knight of Columbus bar someone from serving in public office? That's what some politicians are asking, and one archbishop is fighting against it. A controversy grows grows in Brooklyn. A street could be renamed after a man who some say was anti-Catholic and racist. Celebrating Black History Month with faith, the powerful, charismatic sounds of celebration coming up. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number 718-517-3122. We'll be right back.
One of my colleagues on the Judiciary Committee called the Knights of Columbus an extremist organization. Huh?
Senator Ben Sasse of Nebraska expressing disbelief that a nominee for the federal judiciary was being questioned about his membership in the Knights of Columbus. Welcome back to this special edition of Currents News. Senator Sasse would go on to pass a resolution stating Knights of Columbus membership could not disqualify a nominee for any public office. But the idea that the Catholic charitable organization could prevent someone from carrying out governmental duties has caused outrage. Not long ago, I spoke with Bishop Joseph Kurtz of Louisville, who sent a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee about removing the religious litmus test. I asked Bishop Kurtz about his biggest fears from this type of testing.
My concern is very simple, and that is there's a constitutionality to the ability for someone to be able to participate as a citizen, to run for office, and to bring their convictions to their life. America has been built on those voices of faith and voices of conscience. And so for the Senate Judiciary Committee, even to drift is something that is of utmost concern for us, and it drew me to write that letter.
Archbishop, bottom line, could church teachings prohibit a public official from serving properly?
No, the Constitution is very clear on that. In other words, it's not the church teaching, it's the person of faith conviction that comes to serve. And let's make no mistake about it, in the United States, thank God, we do not impose our values on people. We propose what's good for the common good, but also in a way that takes into account what are deeply held beliefs.
Archbishop, Senator Sasse speaks to your concerns. Let's take a listen.
This is nuts. We're talking about the largest Catholic fraternal organization in the world being called an extremist organization, and a nominee for the federal bench being asked if he would resign from this organization so that he could serve without the appearance of bias.
Archbishop, the senator calls it nuts. You say the very idea of calling out the Knights is appalling. Tell us more about that.
Well, it is appalling. I mean, anyone who knows the Knights of Columbus, and I hope the terrible events will bring to light the great goodness and contributions of the Knights of Columbus. Great citizens of the United States, over 2 million participants who are active members, literally billions of dollars of charity that are being given to others. I think the Knights of Columbus and charitable giving go hand in hand. And so it's ludicrous to think that somehow someone's association with such a fine organization can somehow be twisted.
And to be clear, Archbishop, you're not only speaking about an anti-Catholic bias, you object to questions about any faith.
That's exactly right. And in fact, I think we have come to see that many times a bias against other religious groups, whether it be Jewish or Muslim, Catholic, other Christian organizations, that hurts not just the religion or the person, it hurts the fabric of our nation.
Your Excellency, this isn't the only time a nominee has been questioned on personal religious beliefs. Let's listen to Senator Cory Booker questioning Naomi Rao, who President Trump nominated to replace Brett Kavanaugh on the U.S. Court of Appeals.
Do you think gay relationships are immoral? Do you personally believe that gay relations?
No, I do not.
You do not believe that?
No.
Do you believe they're a sin?
Senator, you know, my personal views on any of these subjects are things I would put to one side, and I would faithfully follow.
So you're not willing to say here that whether you believe it is sinful for two men to be married. You're not willing to comment on that?
You know, Senator, no.
Your Excellency, did he go too far?
He did. He absolutely did. That senator is moving into the religious realm and basically saying that if you are a person of faith, we're going to disqualify you from serving. This exclusion of someone because of their faith is itself going against the Constitution and really everything that we stand for as a nation. It's really a bad road to go down.
Archbishop Kurtz, thank you so much for your perspective and insight on this. We will obviously be checking back with you just to see the progress of these issues with your office.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. There's a passionate controversy over the name of a street in the Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood of Brooklyn. City officials want to honor a man with a documented history of anti-Catholic behavior. Parishioners of St. Peter Claver Church are strongly opposed to that move. Currents News' Emily Drewby has this exclusive report.
Parishioners, over 100, fighting for their church's history, standing their ground on what they consider to be holy ground.
We want Claver Place to mean something.
The people in the pews of St. Peter Claver Church, Brooklyn's first parish for Black Catholics, furious when they heard about a proposal that would co-name their church's street, Claver Place, after a Black activist.
It cannot be done.
Jitu Wayusi, formerly named Les Campbell, was an educator and community leader who had a key role in the Ocean Hill-Brownsville conflict that brought national changes to community control of public education. He also co-founded the East, a famous cultural institution on Claver Place that focused on Black nationalism.
Extraordinary person, and I think his legacy will live on in our community for many, many generations to come.
The co-naming proposal brought to Bedford-Stuyvesant's community board by Wayusi's son as a way to honor the Brooklyn activist who died in 2013. So why are some firmly against this? Well, St. Peter Claver parishioners who knew Wayusi personally claim he was anti-Catholic and racist.
How he treated the parishioners, how he treated the community, how he treated the residents. It was full of bigotry, it was full of hatred.
In letters to the community board, parishioners and local residents detailed what they called bad behavior, writing things like he, quote, disrespected our priest and the nuns who taught our children, calling them names like white devils. Also saying things like, quote, playtime outside was interrupted by chants and harassment towards children because we were considered light skin. In testimonies, parishioners detail incidents where Wayusi and his followers disrupted church services with a megaphone, stopped brides from getting to their wedding, screamed and cursed at children, parishioners, and nuns. They described him as violent, extreme, and constantly at odds with the church.
To have Claver Place co-named after someone who was anti-Catholic and, very much caused a lot of heartache to the Catholic community is really just was unacceptable to the parishioners.
Parishioners gave these letters to the community board and spoke out at a June board meeting, but the resolution still passed unanimously.
We weren't really heard. No one cared to hear what we had to say.
The co-naming request now in the hands of New York's City Council. Parishioners say they would back off if it was moved to any other street.
Brooklyn is 71 square miles. If you want to put his name on any one of those 71 square miles, be our guest.
We weren't trying to take away his honor. I appreciate him for what he has done.
Parishioners would like to see the street co-named for Father Bernard Quinn, the church's founding pastor, a candidate for sainthood.
Someone who loved the people, who loved the community. He wasn't spreading hate and violence.
But Wayusi supporters and friends say since Claver Place is the home of the East, along with a school and a festival started by Wayusi, it has to be there.
That's where it all started. And that's why we have to preserve it so that if anybody walks by there, they'll be able to say, this is where the East started. This is where the International Arts Festival started. This is the birthplace of a cultural revolution led by Jitu Wayusi.
But parishioners say this is not the right street to honor a man who they call racist and anti-Catholic. In Bedford-Stuyvesant, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
Pope Francis received an interesting challenge to complete during Lent. The company, $1 Million Vegan, has launched a global campaign to raise awareness for animals suffering in the livestock industry. In an effort to support the campaign, 12-year-old activist Genesis Butler dared the Holy Father to follow a plant-based diet during Lent. Still to come on this special edition of Currents News, the week is all about love, and the church has some advice for married couples. Hundreds gather at St. Patrick's Cathedral in tribute to the contributions of African Americans and a call to come together as one. We'll be right back. Welcome back to this special edition of Currents News. Couples across the country celebrated Valentine's Day yesterday, but this is also National Catholic Marriage Week, and the church is offering some great advice. Couples should be dedicated to spending extra time together in celebration of their union. The church teaches that the week is an opportunity for couples to focus on building a culture of life and love that begins with marriage and the family. The week-long celebration was launched in the U.S. in 2010 as part of an international event seeking to strengthen marriage in communities and to foster a deeper appreciation for the sacrament. During the first weekend of Black History Month, the Catholic faith was front and center. The annual Archdiocesan Mass at St. Patrick's Cathedral, a call to service, unity, and faith. And of course, what's a celebration without song? Powerful, charismatic sounds of celebration. Praise and prayer from hundreds gathered in St. Patrick's Cathedral to celebrate Black History Month and the National Day of Prayer for the African American and African family. The annual Mass, a tribute to the historic contributions of African Americans and a call for many to come together as one. Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop Guy Sansaric, the principal celebrant.
You know, mankind is so diversified. And sometimes we take the diversity as a cause for separation and division, but we are all branches of the same tree. We are one, so there is unity in diversity and diversity in unity.
Brother Tyrone Davis, director of the Office of Black Ministry of the Archdiocese, helped organize the program, which also honored the legacy of service and faithfulness of historically Black fraternities and sororities, many of whom are members of the Catholic community. They're known as the Divine Nine.
The 9 Black fraternities and sororities have been in existence starting in the early 1900s. And some of those who are members are also serving in Catholic churches.
Priests from various dioceses helped concelebrate the Mass. The faithful raised their hands and voices in prayer as the theme for the liturgy, serving our brothers and sisters, echoed throughout the historic cathedral. Homilist Father Andrew Smith, a priest of the Archdiocese of Chicago, affirming another common thread.
And we pray for all of those who are struggling, whether it be physically, psychologically, or emotionally. Everybody is dealing with something.
The special Mass, a rousing start to Black History Month that many agree must not end with the final blessing.
From here, we challenge our communities and empower our communities, because just because we wear these letters doesn't mean we're the be-all, end-all.
The Archdiocese of New York Office of Black Ministry was established in 1976 to address the cultural, social, and pastoral needs of African and Caribbean Americans. Now, here in the Diocese of Brooklyn, the Vicariate of Black Catholic Concerns, led by Father Alonzo Cox and Father Dwayne Davis, offers support and pastoral guidance to young African American and Caribbean Catholics and plays a leading role in Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio's Diocesan Commission for Social Justice. That is this special edition of Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you so much for joining us, because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.